So maybe you watched some of our other restring videos and the hardware on your guitar looks a little bit different than the guitars I was restringing. In this video I'm going to show you a few common variations and let you know what you should keep an eye out for when you're restringing your guitar. So before I show you some of the more drastic variations in hardware, I want to show you a couple simple variations. Every guitar is different. There are literally hundreds of guitars that you can choose from in any music store now, and they all have their slight little variations. There's a lot of variation in the Fender product line now, so you'll see a lot of bridges like this. This is the standard Jaguar bridge. This is a trem bridge. There is stuff to know about it for sure, but if you're just restringing, it's really quite straightforward. Just change one string at a time, loosen the string, cut it off, pull it straight through the back and pull the new one through. It's as simple as that. If you do the strings one at a time, keep the guitar in tune as you go, there's nothing you can do to really damage it. There's no risk, and there's nothing really special you need to know about this bridge. So if your guitar looks like this, watch the Stratocaster video, and otherwise just trust your gut on how to restring at the tailpiece here. Another common variation that you'll see is the wraparound tailpiece, like on this SG here. This is actually the original bridge design that they put on the original Les Paul. It's dead simple. The strings just pull through from the front, the ball ends rest here, and it just wraps over top. Again, nothing special you need to know. It is as dead simple as it seems. So if you watch the Les Paul video and your bridge looks like this, just go for it. There's no special knowledge you need. So now with those two out of the way, let's take a look at some guitars that are a little bit different. So here's a variation that does require a little bit of special knowledge. An archtop guitar with a floating bridge. So archtop guitars generally aren't that complicated. They're all going to have some kind of tailpiece like this. The strings hook in underneath. Some of them have slots, some of them pull in from the back, but they're all fairly intuitive. You can just look at the way the current strings are installed and figure it out. What you do want to be very wary of is the floating bridge. This bridge is not attached to the guitar. It's not glued on, there's no locating pins, there's nothing holding it in place except for the downward pressure of the strings. So if we take all 6 strings off, this bridge is going to fall off. It's like a violin. So I strongly recommend you just change the strings one at a time. If you like the way the guitar plays, everything's working perfectly, it plays in tune up the neck, you like the string height, everything's great, just change the strings one at a time and you will not affect the setup whatsoever. If you do want to take all 6 strings off, maybe to clean the guitar or for whatever reason, this is what we do in my shop. Just mark the location using a little bit of painter's tape along the short edge of the bridge on both sides. Just use low-tack painter's tape. It's only going to be on there for a few minutes. It's totally safe on any finish. With the tape on there, we just put a little pencil mark on the corners, pointing to the corners of the bridge base. Now we can cut all 6 strings off, we can take the bridge off completely, clean the guitar, do whatever we need to do, and when we go to put it back on, we can put it back on in exactly the same place. So if you do want to take all the strings off to clean your guitar at home, I strongly recommend you do this to make sure that you get it back in the right place. Otherwise, there's not much else you need to worry about restringing an archtop. Everything else is the same up at the headstock. The tail pieces can be a little bit different. Some of them, the strings pull through the back. Some of them, they come in through a notch in the bottom, but they're all fairly intuitive. You can just look how the current strings are installed and probably figure it out. There's not too many surprises there. As long as you're aware of that floating bridge, you shouldn't have any problem with an archtop guitar. Now I want to show you something really different. So this is an archtop with a Bigsby. I'm going to actually show you how to change a string on one of these because there's a bit to know. So this is about the most rudimentary tremolo system on the market. The arm here just moves this bar where the strings are attached, and that allows you to get a tremolo effect. So starts off the same as everything else. Take the tension off the old string, cut it or detach it at the headstock. So you can see on the tailpiece that the ball ends are actually hooked over this pin on the roller shaft. And they're curled right around. So when we install our new string, we want to get it as close as we can to this shape before we try and install it. It'll make it a lot easier. I'll show you how to do that. Take out our new string. So some Bigsbys have this extra down tension bar. If it does, bring in the string with the ball end underneath. Get it to this position first. Now, before we hook the new string onto the peg, we want to bend it first. You can just do this with your fingers, but it's a little easier with a pen or a pencil. So just hold the flat machine face of the ball end against it and roll it right around the cylinder, one entire turn. That'll give you a nice half circle curve. And that'll make it a lot easier to get the ball end seated right over the peg. Put it in place, you just put a little tension on it. Come up to the headstock, and everything at the headstock is the same as in the other videos. I'll show you that one more time. So with your new string ready to go, pass it underneath the tension bar if you have one. Not all Bigsbys have this bar. Now before we hook it on the pin, we want to pre-bend it. That'll make it a lot easier to get it on the pin. So you can just do this with your fingers, but I find it's a little easier with a pen or a pencil. So just hold the flat face against the shaft of the pen so that you can see down through the hole and look at the pen. And then hold it against it and just wrap it all the way around, full 360 degrees. Let it go, and that'll give you a nice firm bend in it. It'll be a lot easier to get it over the pin. And once it's over the pin, because it's got that bend in it, now it'll be a lot easier to get it over the pin. And once it is over the pin, because it's got that bend in it already, it'll stay in place a lot better. So from there, you just restring at the headstock, the same as in the other videos. Just make sure you keep good tension on the string so that it doesn't slide around too much at the bridge. And as you bring it up to pitch, you just want to check at the tailpiece that the string hasn't slid off to one side, that it's nicely centered, and that they're all evenly spaced. All right. And from there, it's really the same as all the other videos. Okay. So next I want to show you a couple variations up at the headstock that you might encounter. The first one is this Les Paul with a set of locking tuners on it. So locking tuners don't require any sort of special knot or wraps around the string post to keep the strings in place. They actually have a mechanical vise mechanism in them that clamps the string in place, and then you just bring it into proper tune. As you can see here, none of these strings are actually going around and around the post. They're not tied. They just go through the post hole once, they come out the other end, and somehow they stay in place. I'll show you how that works. If you're going to change strings on a locking tuner, you still want to take all the tension off, but really all that means is straightening the tuner out so that the string is coming straight out and it's under the least amount of tension. So if we flip the guitar over, in the back of the headstock we can see these knobs here, and these are holding the string locks in place. You just tighten them down like a screw and it locks the string in place. You loosen them off and it will release the screw. I'll show you how to change a string on one of these. Back on the top of the headstock, we can now pull the string out. All that's going on there is when we tighten that knob in the back down, there's a little pin inside the post that's coming up and clamping the string in place. And then when you wind it back off, the pin recedes and you can remove the string. So we loosen it up. To install our new string, Everything's the same down at the tailpiece and the bridge. And you want to line the post up so you can pull the string straight through, same as usual. You can pull it nice and tight up above the headstock, and now tighten the knob on the bottom. And as I tighten it down, I can see the string start to kink because that little pin in the center of the post is coming up and it's pushing on the string and it's clamping it in place. Now I can tug on the string and see that it's firmly held in place up at the tuner. And now I can just start tuning it up. And you can see now the string is in tune and the post didn't even turn half a turn. So now my string just comes off the fingerboard through the nut. It takes the tiniest little bit of a turn into the post, and that's it. It doesn't wrap around multiple times. It doesn't have knots or loops or anything. The whole idea here is that locking tuners eliminate any margin of error the strings can have, anywhere that they can settle or shift or move around. So as you're bending, as you're adjusting your tuning, as you're using your tremolo, the strings have very little room to move around on you. They're locked in place. So you'll get much better tuning stability out of a set of locking tuners if you install your strings this way. So another variation up at the headstock I want to show you is vintage style tuners. You'll generally see these from Fender on Telecasters and Stratocasters. So they're a little bit different than the modern tuners we've mostly looked at in these videos. They don't have a hole drilled through the side of the post. Instead, they have a hole going straight down through the center of the post, and then this little machined slot in the top. And this allows us to take the loose cut-off end of the string and tuck it right down in the center hole. Gets it out of the way, you're not going to cut your fingers on it, and it provides some nice security and really stable, solid tuning. So I'll show you how to change one of these. Like all the others, we first wind a little tension off. You don't have to take much tension off before these will pop out. When the old string comes out, you can kind of see what's going on here. The tail end of the string goes down in, and it comes out and wraps around the post a couple times. We'll take the old string off through the bridge. Everything's the same here at the bridge. If you watch the other Stratocaster video, nothing's different. Just feed the string through. All right. So before we send the string down into the machine head, we have to measure out the appropriate amount of slack. One traditional way to do it was to measure out 3 machine heads from the machine head you want to use. So here we're doing the A, so we would measure out to the B string and cut it there. Another way you can do it is using 2 frets worth of slack, like we've been doing in some of the other videos. So pull it tight, grab it at the nut, pull it back 2 frets, and that pretty much gives you where you want to cut it at the machine head. We'll clip it off there. And now you can align the tuner so that the slot is going side to side across the headstock the short way. Send the cut end all the way down. Put it down in the slot. Start winding. Just make sure all those windings go downward, stacking beneath one another. You should get about 2 windings around the post. Bring it up to tune, you're ready to go. There's no sharp ends, nothing sticking out, and your string is rock solid in the machine head. That's all there is to it. So in the world of guitars, there's always going to be another variation out there, but those are by far the most common ones that you're likely to encounter. Once again, I'm Mike Robichaux for Long & McQuade. Thanks for watching.